it's not just one person's opinion. I think I'm right. Otherwise, I have no business writing. And you're free to disagree.
But I think that we have to be at least as careful, if not more, with positive reviews as with negative reviews. Because the audience is malleable, and the audience, but the audience is also not foolish. And so if the audience goes to a show that is an ordinary show or a mediocre show, and that it has been told by a critic or others is a spectacular show, then they are disappointed. And moreover, they feel that the genre or the style is not for them. They think, if this is a great example of this style, and it is in fact so mediocre and sorry, then I guess, no, not for me, this cabaret.
Yeah, they'll never see a cabaret show again. It's no good.
And it's very dangerous to overpraise things. And it's dangerous to artists because they don't continue to grow. That's what we were hinting at in your last thing. But, you know, artists who are overpraised early, as they're developing, can stop developing and think that they're done. And audiences who go to see these shows can be disappointed and less likely to go to other shows that might be better. So I worry about this. That's what I was getting at before. But I worry about the sort of breathless encomia that we get so often all around the internet and even in print for fundamentally ordinary talents.
And do you think that's a result of people who aren't qualified in quotes, critics writing about these?
It's partly that, and it's partly there are fewer positions that are paid for it, and so amateurs are going to be a certain type, and also they will tend to be a little bit more enthusiastic by nature. They're drawn to it. They're doing it for free, etc. But also
they're writing for their friends.
Also, they're writing for their friends. And it's a small community, and they know each other, and they know people who know each other.
The real problem.
So everyone wants to be supportive. It's like a big group hug.
This is why he gets the big bucks.
Well, it's a circling of the wagons to some extent also. You know, that the fragile and endangered world of cabaret is dwindling, and we don't want to say anything bad about it because it's already so hurt. So we'll only say good things and you know, push each other up. But it's not really, in my opinion, ultimately that helpful.
Totally agree.
There's a question I have here, which Adam, you lead right into. I said, because there's a shortage of writers in this particular industry, and because there are quite a number of sites that cover the performers in the community, there's been a growing trend of performers writing about other performers. And I'd love to get your comments on that.
Well, I'm going to get back to the what I said at the top of the discussion. Readers have to judge for themselves. There are people who are performers who are able to make really more detailed, more technical comments or evaluation, assessment of a performer than I can, and that can be useful. However, there are performers who are, that performer who's writing reviews had better be a terrific performer in his own right. Otherwise, his credibility is in question. Mind you, there are many performers who are actually good critics, but it's really icky.
It's a slippery slope.
That's what you're going for. You should have seen it. You saw Stephen Holden's Dietz and Schwartz act.
I was going to say.
Oh my gosh.
I liked it.
Why about it?
You should see my Calypso show.
But the thing is,
I've become the world's only Jewish Calypso singer. Only when I get very drunk.
but again, you gotta just writing for an established publication doesn't necessarily make your opinions give them credence.
But it helps.
Arguably a little bit. But again, I keep getting back to it. I've seen such crap in the Times.
Yes,
On a regular basis or once in a while?
Well, there's some writers I remember reading, like, Christ, he's full of shit. Time after time
Is it
after
because you don't necessarily...
No. I think his standards are just distorted.
And the writing is poorer.
No, I find even people I think are really rotten critics are often very good writers. No, that's a separate thing. But again, getting back to the point, you have to judge for yourself. As we said in the beginning, there's a lot of people writing. Some of them are singers. Aside from the issue of, boy, you better be good if you're going to criticize other people, otherwise you your credibility. But judge for yourself and see. Let the market decide. People will decide whose opinions is just puffery and whose opinions are worth considering.
You know, the guy who had the hardest time, he didn't really become a critic, but Peter Levinson, who was a press agent for a million years, then he decided to become a critic, but he started being a writer, and he wrote these biographies, and people were really hard on him because they, for some reason, because a press agent had been writing, you know, what press agents are paid to write for, you know, he really, you know, people really were much harder on him than they were, say, an academic who writes a book, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or even a performer who writes a book. But yeah, he really
But
had
do you
a...
think-
That was a
I
tough
think in
place to come from.
principle,
Again, going back to what
Yeah.
you were saying, do you think the people who are performers who are writing about other performers leads to everyone all these great reviews?
Okay.
It could be.
it doesn't help. In principle, I have no opposition to artists writing about other artists, except that works much better in healthy media than it does in small, local, unhealthy media.
Healthy media defined as-
so for example, if John Updike writes book reviews, which he sometimes does,
Yeah.
that's fine,
Right.
because in John Updike's level
Right.
and
And you're right. In the book world, it's nothing
Right.
but authors writing about other authors.
Right, and if George Bernard Shaw wanted to write reviews of other shows, which he did, fine, because the theater at that time was thriving, and we could have this conversation. And in the English model of book reviewing, it's almost all other authors
Right,
writing
right.
Well,
writing
yeah,
Chinese books,
that's,
and the New York Times Book Review, and sometimes not. So that's not inherently a problem with artists writing about other artists. The problem is when the art involved is so internecine, you know, is so enmeshed and so small. Then the level, the stakes are different, and the sort of the understanding and personal quality of it is different. It really feels more personal, like a personal betrayal of people you know if you write something negative. And so that, again, tends to push everything up. It tends to blow up the puffery. And the puffery is a real, long-standing danger in this industry.
So, if I may, I am a singer who does write about
Other performers.
other performers and kind of find out who your friends are. If you refuse to write for people who you know, and they say, well, aren't you going to write for me? And not too many people have done it, but some have. And some people I've known have really not answered my phone calls like they used to. And that's okay, because I don't need fair weather friends, and I have too many of them anyway. But, so, you have to be very brave if you're going to...
And completely objective. You have to remain objective, which is something that's, the cabaret community is a very close-knit community. And there are someone that I know very well who's on the Bistro Awards Committee refuses to stay and socialize after an act. He just doesn't want, that's his way of remaining objective.
I try to do that.
And there are other critics who are friendly with people in the community.
I think it's a matter of individual integrity. I don't think conflict of interest is exactly the issue people think it is. I remember one critic who told me that he would never miss up an opportunity to say something nasty about someone because some years before that person had done something slighted.
A specific person.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah,
a
not
specific
every
person. No, because some years before that person had done something that offended him. Now, on the surface, this critic was totally independent, had no conflict of interest, yet it was a hideous, I wouldn't say necessarily conflict of interest, but lack of integrity. Similarly, I could write a review about someone I was very close with, and it would be totally objective, and I'd give my honest opinion. I'd be no kinder than I would be to anyone. So, but that's me. But another issue is, and it's a practical consideration, how would people perceive it? If I'm known to be friendly with someone and write a positive review, it could really hurt that person because the person said, well, his buddy, wrote a positive review.
This is true.
And so that's a practical consideration. I know that there isn't enough money in the world or friendship to have me betray my standards. But, yeah. So it is a
There really
practical
isn't any
consideration.
money to do it anyway.
God,
There literally isn't any money.
I think I might as well name names. She's gone, but the late Anita O'Day I interviewed her a number of times. I always, was assigned to do something about her. She was always a total bitch to me. Just, a nasty person. She was always, coming off drugs or something, and she always busted my chops. It was never easy dealing with her. And, when you start to write about a person like that, are you going to think about that? Hopefully not. She was a great artist, and I always tried, she's one of the greatest interpreters ever of the songbook or of jazz, or a great performer, and you try not to think about that, your own personal experience, what they were like to you. Because then by the same token, if someone's a mediocre singer, but they're really sweet to you, does that factor in? Hopefully not, hopefully not.